She wrote him letters she never mailed, apologies, confessions, dreams. They began the way some connections do, without intention, without drama. Just two people repeatedly crossing paths until coincidence felt deliberate. They met at a neighborhood library during a blackout. Emergency lights glowed faintly while everyone else complained. He joked that it felt like the opening scene of a movie. She smiled and said nothing, but later she would write about that moment, how his voice sounded calm in the dark, how she trusted it instantly. They became familiar before they became close. Morning greetings, shared benches, conversations that wandered and always circled back to the things they were afraid to say out loud. He talked about leaving new city, new job, a life that felt just out of reach. She talked about staying family, responsibility, the comfort of known streets. They never argued about it. They didn't have to. They both understood that love doesn't always arrive with permission from timing. She fell for him quietly, in the pauses between sentences, in the way he listened without interrupting, in how he remembered small details, her favorite tea, the book she abandoned halfway because it felt too honest. But she didn't say it. Instead, she wrote. At night, when the world finally stopped asking things of her, she unfolded paper and let the truth spill where it couldn't be rejected. I'm sorry I keep pretending this is casual. I wonder if you think about me when you're packing your future. I love you in a way that scares me because it asks nothing in return. She folded the letters carefully, labeled dates, slid them into a shoebox beneath her bed. She told herself she was protecting them both. He, meanwhile, was doing the same thing in a different room, in a different kind of silence. He wrote when doubt grew loud, when excitement about leaving tangled painfully with the idea of leaving her behind. His letters were messy crossed outlines, and rewritten truths. I don't know how to ask you to wait without sounding selfish. You feel like home, and I don't know where that leaves me. If I stay, will I resent you? If I leave, will I lose you anyway? He sealed the letters and hid them in a box meant for important documents. They lived like this for years, orbiting honesty, never landing. There were moments, almost kisses, long looks that lasted half a second too long. Nights where they both went home knowing something irreversible had brushed past them. Then he left, not dramatically. No tearful goodbye at the airport. Just a promise to stay in touch that both of them knew would thin with time. They did stay in touch. Birthdays, occasional calls, updates that felt carefully edited, and then silence. The phone call came on an ordinary afternoon. An accident, sudden, unfair. She hung up and sat on the floor, unable to cry, unable to think. Grief didn't arrive like a wave, it arrived like fog. Thick, quiet, disorienting. At the funeral, she stood among people who knew him in ways she didn't, colleagues, friends from his new life. She wondered if any of them knew how he paused before answering difficult questions. If they knew how gentle he was with fragile things. She left without speaking to anyone. Weeks passed, then months. One evening, his sister reached out. I found something, she said softly. I think it's meant for you. They met at a small cafe. The sister slid a box across the table, plain, worn at the corners. Inside were letters, his letters. Her hands shook as she read. They mirrored her own words in ways that made her chest ache. The same fears, the same love, the same waiting. At the bottom was one final envelope, sealed, addressed to her. She opened it slowly. If this reached you too late, I hope it still reaches you fully. I loved you in the ways I knew how at the time. You taught me that love doesn't have to be loud to be real. Please don't let our silence convince you that you were alone in it. You never were. That night, she went home and opened her shoebox. For the first time, she read her letters without shame. She realized something then: their love hadn't failed. It had existed, fully, honestly, even if quietly. And that mattered. She didn't burn the letters. She didn't cling to them either. She placed both boxes together on a shelf, not hidden, not displayed, just acknowledged. Over time, she lived differently. She spoke sooner, loved braver, stopped waiting for perfect timing. Years later, she stood in a small archive that collected unsent letters, stories of things people never dared to say. She donated both boxes anonymously. On the final page of the record, she wrote one sentence: "Some love stories are written twice, once in silence, once in understanding." As she walked away, she felt it not loss, not regret, but completion. Their story didn't end where it should have. It ended where it could finally be whole. And that, she knew, was a perfect ending. Subscribe, like, and share.